I think you are right on time. So I go now. Okay, thank you. So thank you very much. Thank you to the audience and also the people online watching the presentation I will do right now. So my name is Dominique Massonié. I've been with NIO, the smart vehicle brand from China since, so I've been there since July 22. And I will introduce you the software development vehicle part. So on our side, we are very focused and driven by the user experience, in fact, and my domain is on the cockpit side. I'm in charge or leading the team for the voice assistant, so basically our smart companion inside a car called NOMI. And it will be the red line through my presentation, but I will cover a broad scape of landscape of development activities, life cycle, and hardware and software as well, because I know the audience is very broad. So, and if you have a question, do not hesitate, and you can visit us, our boss. Later on, I can also cover a deep dive aspect if you are interested in. Okay. So first, as I mentioned, we are a smart electric vehicle company, and we have a broad panel of different cars, obviously, available in China and in Europe. And it's important because obviously the software also has its root into the hardware. And with different car form factor, you have also different needs and different software adaptation needed, right? So on the audio perspective, because it's relevant for my own topic, obviously if the car shape and the cabin interior is different, the microphone setup are different, maybe the reverberation is different, so it has always consequence on the software side which might not be obvious for the user in the end, right? So we are set up as a global company on the software side, so that's also another small difference between hardware and software. So the car factory at the moment, they are located in China. So you see in China we have multiple locations, but we have also development sites around the world. So for that matter in Europe, I'm located in Berlin. And we also have colleagues in the Silicon Valley doing also other software platform activities, right? So if I'm zooming into Europe, you see we have quite a few locations, not only related to the software development, but also as touch base with our users. And we collect as much information as possible from them, so we are very, very close to the user. They are part of the software development process, and I will show you that later, how it works and how we do that. And the major key area we are developing in Europe is the focus on the localization, let's say, on the difference between the Chinese market, the global market, and the European market. So the first example would be the autonomous driving, right? There are different regulations in Europe. We have also other different conditions. You can, for example, drive faster on the motorway in Germany. And maybe the pavement of the road, so some characteristics are different. So obviously we need to have a team localized here, or namely in Berlin, driving around across Europe to validate that the conditions in Europe are met. Same for the cockpit or the different software parts, like power, but in my case, it's, as I mentioned, the cockpit side. So obviously we have different conditions in Europe, and so I'm leading the team in this office you see on the picture in the city center of Berlin. To give you concrete example of the localization, because people tend to think, oh, we are doing translation. In fact, translation, you can do it everywhere. What I mean with localization is the supplier ecosystem or the application ecosystem is obviously different in Europe than in China. For example, in China, they can leverage different cloud infrastructure and provider, like, to name a few, like Tencent, Alibaba, Beidou. So this kind of ecosystem we don't have in Europe. And also in Europe, we have different regulation, obviously, like GDPR, so you know. So in Europe, we need to have our own backend and our own activity with a fence to the other regions. So that's part of the localization. Another aspect of the localization, as I mentioned, is the supplier ecosystem. So for technology, like also speech technology, we have our own ecosystem of partners in Europe to address the specificity of the market, for that matter, that would be all the language we need to cover. So obviously in China, they focus on Mandarin. In Europe, we focus on all the relevant European languages, depending on the rollout and the market also, sure. And there are also small details that's funny we learn down the road, like for example, to give a funny example, it's the time zone. In China, it's a very wide country, but they have only one time zone, right? So part of the legalization is like findings like, oh, okay, we have also time zone here. So all in all, the complete life cycle, if we take into account the software part, the hardware part, and the user and the ecosystem, we have these end-to-end line shown on the screen, so to say. So obviously we want to serve the user first. So everything needs to come from the user. Then obviously the first interface between the user and our activities are through the vehicle. The vehicle has some characteristics. So in our case, all the vehicles are only electric vehicle, right? So it comes from the user experience perspective. You can imagine the smart routing. So the experience is specific to electric vehicle. And then what we build is on top of the available technology and hardware in our car. So we have some constraints and limits because embedded is also different than cloud, but nonetheless, we work with both with a kind of hybrid architecture. So we need to balance activities or software execution between cloud and embedded, and we do some kind of arbitration, right? So you see in this ecosystem, lots of different activities, lots of different stakeholders, and this reflects on the organization, obviously, of the work and the organization or the structure of the company as well. And then I wanted to show or make some evidence on the different patterns. Those are classic patterns. So on the left-hand side, you see how you scale with, or how your organization is scaling with interface and communication. So if you are more on the technical side, so you see with lots of expertise. So for example, you would be an AI expert. So you are focusing on this specific topic. You have maybe less interface. You are more living in a silo, so to say. In a matrix organization, you would be like more the architect or the product manager to connect the expert with the other interface inside the organization. And if you start to touch user and maybe would things like rather a marketing activity, but in fact, due to the fact that the developer are pretty well connected to the end user, we can have a very broad interface with lots of different stakeholders. So if you consider that from a software engineer career path perspective, you would start as a software engineer, then you are a senior software engineer, then you are an architect, you would be more in the middle with more communication and interface, and then maybe you go to product management or innovation management, and then you have more and more or pre-sales engineering, these kind of things, you have more and more interface, right? So also it's interesting to take into account as a software developer, what are the next steps in your career, if you are more on the technical path, on the management path, or this kind of, if you like communication, there are also opportunities. So those profile and all this communication, as I mentioned, needs to be quick to deliver. So the focus is deliver value, and the value proposition for the user is in the car. And if we look at the traditional way automotive ecosystem has been working, was a very high hierarchy with the OEM at the top, and then the different rank of supplier. And if you see now the complexity or the intrication between all the functionality and especially then the life cycle and the speed you want to put into that process, so I will come later to that, but basically it means that now with software over the air update, it's never ending. So after the release is before the release. And so we need to really flatten the collaboration. So I think it's also interesting for the attendance. It's not only about product or software product you deliver or software interaction you provide, is also the way your software will integrate in our ecosystem. Because we are, if you see when the organization is flattened, in fact, to a certain extent, we are doing our own tier one. So in certain area, we will be our own tier one. In other area, it will be like this. So I think people doing software, entering the ecosystem, they need also to understand how they can jump into this ecosystem, and maybe they also need to adapt. It's just like not a one-stop shop things. Perfect. So having talking about, let's say, the abstract part of all those interactions, obviously then it reflects organizationally, but also physically in different areas in the car. So what you can reflect as business unit, right? So on the right-hand side, you see the smart gateway, so the connectivity part, the smart cockpit, including NOMI, so you see the voice assistant, and you see the autonomous driving part. So I'm living in the smart cockpit part, but you can also imagine we have interaction with the different business units with connection to autonomous driving, for example, or the connectivity, obviously. All those activities, they lead to, it makes sense to bring synergy into the system, right? We are not reinventing the wheel in all the different areas. And you saw already the trend in the automotive area or domain that people are talking more and more from the automotive OS, right? So it's a complete software stack relevant to the car and the driving experience. So it's also going beyond the car. I will show you more specifically for NEO later, but here you see the complete stack. And what I wanted to highlight is the vertical bar on the right-hand side. So you see artificial intelligence in the vertical bar. And obviously now it's hype, but it has been used, in fact, before that, right? So the artificial intelligence inroads or new importance is going through the complete organization. So for example, it will mean that we share the cluster for the model training across the organization or these kind of things. We have session for knowledge sharing, or the AI part is also a bridge across all the different organizations. So I'm doing more signal processing part, but we have colleagues doing more vision part, but in the end we also try to find synergies. So all in all, wait a second. All in all, oops. All in all, how this reflects, then it's this endless loop. I mentioned earlier that before the release is after the release. So if you go through to the loop at the top left, you see we collect requirements or there are issues already, and we need to prioritize everything. So you know the software cycle. Then we will do the implementation, everything that's needed to be deployed, testing and validation. Then it's shipped over the air to the customers. It will improve or change the user experience. Obviously, we hope that it's all positive, but there might be also some glitches or new experience, new feedback, which lead to continuous improvement. So we collect the user feedback. We have satisfaction ratings. Then it leads to new issue, new requirement, and then you see the endless loop. And before we ship everything into the car, if we consider, okay, why NEO is doing this that way, or why it was not done like that way in the past, it means obviously we have the connectivity, which was not available a long time ago, but the physical car architecture has been evolving a lot, right? So many years ago, or even some OEMs, traditional OEM now, they have still a bunch of small ECU and lots of different components that would be difficult to flash. With more modern architecture, we have such called high-performance computer dedicated for certain tasks, and it's easier to flash and maintain the software on those ECU or high-performance computer, right? So what I can do is I will show you a small video to showcase what happens from user perspective for the over-the-air update.
When a new NEO software or firmware update is available, NEO users receive a notification via their car or smartphone. New software updates are delivered to the vehicle's smart antenna via an over-the-air update, using end-to-end encryption for safety and security. The smart antenna receives the software update package and pushes it to each relevant domain controller or ECU. An update for driver assistance will reach the Atom supercomputer, which is the assisted driving domain controller. Also, other domain controllers, such as the cockpit domain controller, can receive updates ensuring your vehicle's infotainment system, car controls, and in-cabin AI are always cutting edge. There's also the connected gateway, a system which manages the different ECUs and software branches. Once the update is complete, the user will receive a notification to let them know the car is ready. Thanks to NIO's smart system, NIO's user experience-defined vehicles deliver constantly new and improved experiences and features, anywhere, anytime.
Okay, so now basically you saw the process, and it translates also from the software experience perspective into upgrades of the system. So there are smaller step or bigger step. So in our case, we named the major software version with trees, and you see also maybe in the Linux ecosystem with the starting letter to upgrade. So Aspen was the first platform. Banyan is the current generation, and the next one will start with a C. And so the last 2-3 years, we had more than 20 software updates. So from the user perspective, it's a continuous improvement. And we are bringing lots of, in more than thousands of upgrade, in fact. So then I will go step by step into the user experience to also make some concrete example, and also focusing more and more on the cockpit side and the voice assistant ultimately. So let's take an SUV as an example. So because you are not familiar with the NIO portfolio maybe, but at least you can try the car here on the booth, and you can visit the NIO house in different locations, like in Amsterdam as well. But taking this car, so first you see it's you have a lot of space in the car, lots of comfort, different functionality. You see the knobs for each seats. You see that the comfort and functionality might be the same or different across different rows. And ultimately, what I wanted to show, so this is really to highlight what happens in the car and to connect also with other domains for software development. Let's imagine that that's a car, but that also might be your house, right? So that could be kind of IoT world concept, maybe if you are outside the automotive domain. So what you see here, that could be your living room. Like at the rear, you have the kitchen. In the middle, you have the living room. At the front, I don't know, you have whatever. And then you see the voice assistant. For us, in our case, it's like you'll be having your Alexa or your Google at home. And here, basically, you have your smart companion NOMI inside the car, and then all the user can interact directly per voice. So it's very convenient for safety reasons for the driver, obviously. So this is also the main driver for voice interaction in cars. Over the years, it's safety first, right? But now it's also more and more convenient for people on the second and third row. They can use car functionality even if there is no haptic interface for them, right? And what makes also this concept interesting is at the rear, you don't know exactly who is sitting, but that could be adult or children. And also then you can also introduce smart or fancy new software feature addressing kids in the car, not only the driver or the passengers. And for that matter, we have different microphone and microphone position. So the smart companion knows who is talking or from which seat position the communication was initiated. And for example, if you say open the window, it will open your window because we know who started the communication, right? So those are the examples. And you can obviously interact with the car. There are lots of smart functionality inside the car. So to give you a few of them on the digital side, so you have the head-up display on the top left. You have the central unit in the middle, a large tablet, let's say, which is the primary user interface. Also, you can interact with touch. You have the cluster, the instrument cluster, mostly for the driver, obviously. You see the light, so ambient light that can pulse and give some emotion on top of the interaction. And last but not least, in the middle, you see our small head, like NOMI, which is always smiling and focusing on the interaction, and she can deliver a car functionality, but also beyond that, leverage cloud services maybe, or like you name it, GPT kind of interaction, right? So for that matter, when we talk about emotion now, going more and more into the user experience in the car and interacting, or the car interaction, So the NOMI phase is very, very joyful and important for most of the users. On the other hand, maybe some people will like a more traditional way to interact with the car. So even at the car configuration, we offer the possibility to either buy the car with the NOMI made configuration or the NOMI Hello, and in this case, the interaction is through light, right? And also what you see at the bottom is we use different persona. Like the NOMI mate will have a more, let's say, joyful and younger, also for the voice, the more joyful persona. And on the other hand, the Hello will have a more mature voice and the way to interact. So we can also adapt to different user needs or expectation for that matter. So it's also show the flexibility from the hardware and the software for that matter. So coming back to mates, what I mentioned, so there is another dimension using the small display to show the face. So I mentioned this eye contact. In fact, we can consider that in the direction with AI, the anthropomorphism kind of interaction, because you have this eye, this face, she's smiling, so there are some emotion, obviously. She can also interact depending on the context. So if you are listening to music, she will play the guitar or do some music-related stuff. There are also some hint or safety-relevant information she can also convey to the user, like if you forgot to fasten your seatbelt, she will look in the direction of the seat and show the small icon. I think it's in the middle, up. You can see she buckle up. So there are hundreds of emojis like this, and it makes the interaction also quite fun. Another interaction I mentioned before, or the display of the information. So in the instrument cluster, obviously you have a reflection of the car environment model. And those information, I mentioned earlier, the connection between the different business units. So all the information, or most of the information displayed on the instrument cluster, come from the ADAS domain, so the autonomous driving functionality of the car. So you see the different vehicles surrounding the car, you see the red light, also their status, you see the speed and speed limit, you see the magic carpet if you are in autonomous driving mode. The car is also able to change lane automatically. So you have this perception and you can share the information. So you have an immersive experience in the car, interacting with the car and understanding the reflection or the status of the understanding of the situation from the car perspective as well. So it's fully multimedia or multimodal. Okay, so all in all, I mentioned there are lots of functionality, lots of different cars and different user profiles. So how do we cope with that and how do we prioritize? Because I mentioned in the loop, it's easier to show up or come up with lots of tons of features and all those things. So obviously the capacity and the resources are not endless. Even if it's an endless loop, it's not an endless capacity power. So we need to prioritize, and for that matter, we had lots of touch points with the users. Also, we attend conference to collect directly information and feedback. So every channel is welcome, and this helps a lot to prioritize, get new ideas, get some differences, glitches, and we want to add more and more value. We are touching base not only with user or car owners. Basically, we have also interface to the crowd or to the people with through the NEO app. So everybody can install the app. With the app, as a car owner, you can interact with your car. You can do pre-heating, you can unlock, or any kind of things you can do remotely with your car. But as non-car owner, you can still connect points, collect points, go to the NEO house. There are some goodies, shops, and activities. So there is also the convenience for any user or people who enjoy the lifestyle from NEO also to be part of it, even if you are not a car owner. Physical experience in this context are at the NEO house. So there are lots of NEO house. You are very lucky in the Netherlands. You have a couple of them. We have also some quite a few in Germany as well. The one in Amsterdam is the biggest one in Europe, so I really recommend you go there. It's very well located, you will see. And so we want to share also with any profile, any people who also want to be part of this ecosystem. And it leads to all the satisfaction we can collect. So to close the loop also, last point I want to touch is from the not the car side but the infrastructure side. So I mentioned in the beginning we are doing only smart vehicle, small electric vehicle, and what makes also NIO different is the power swap station capability. So the battery is decoupled from the car, so the life cycle of the car is not the same, let's say, as the battery life cycle. And you see on the picture, you either can charge a car or you just enter the swapping station. So we have a video to showcase that on the booth. But basically, you park in front of the power swap station, and then you rely on the valet parking. So the car will enter the station, swap the battery, and you go away again with a fully charged or 90% charged battery. So it's very convenient, and I think you can drive from Amsterdam to Munich only based on swapping. So I think with around 5 swaps, you can go from here to Munich. So the ecosystem is also growing in Europe, and it's part of the smart routing. So obviously we need to do our own software customization and tailorization for Europe in cooperation with the colleagues from the power team and the infrastructure side. So it's a global ecosystem with application, car, phone, infrastructure, and we grow this in Europe for the biggest coverage and user satisfaction in the end. Yeah. So I don't know if we can get some questions, but we have a couple of minutes left if anybody wants to ask question. Otherwise, I'm available today on the NIO booth. I don't know if anybody, I don't know if it's possible or if people online are able to interact with questions. But yeah, you have one? No? Okay. Yeah, so then I would like to thank you for being there live or in the cloud. And as I mentioned, do not hesitate. You can enter the car and interact directly with the NOMI assistant in the car, and I can answer all the questions. Thank you very much. Have a good day.